I didn't see you there. I was just enjoying a spot of tea. Oh, yes, I'm Jasmine, by the way. Oh, stop, you're actually fine. A judgmental bystander who will not be reserving any judgments. Anyways, I'm assuming you're here to hear about my old pal Gatsby. Now, he was a fine man, reminiscent, but with a past like his, who wouldn't want to relive it constantly? I mean, he was a bootlegger, he was a German spy. However, that couldn't be true because he was in the American army during the war. Most of all, however, he was a lover, consumed in love's grip by the ever-flighty Mrs. Daisy Buchanan. It wasn't until Gatsby went away to war that the tragic love story drew to a close, and, out of necessity, she married Tom Buchanan of Chicago with more pomp and circumstance than Louisville had ever known before. Then she cried and cried, screaming, "Tell him Daisy's changed her mind!" and proceeding to throw pearls across the room. She's dramatic. It's okay. Anyways, however, that ending wasn't enough for Gatsby. So basically what he does is he takes all the money he's acquired over his lifetime and he buys a house conveniently placed across the pond from, yep, you guessed it, Alcidae Buchanan. I know, what a shock. Where Daisy now lives with her jerk of a husband and seemingly neglected daughter. Now that we have a little background into her story, it's important to introduce the messenger. This whole tale is being recounted by one Nick Carraway. Get it? Carraway? Makes sense because he often threw away morals to live in the moment? All makes sense, really. Or, according to E-Notes, Nick Carraway can be derived from Nicholas, who was seen as a patron saint of larger masses. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Nick Carraway is a bond salesman, / writer, / lover of the past, but oddly the present. Anyways, he is a lover of the past, just like his buddy Jay Gatsby, formerly known as Jimmy Gats. The two friends are different in almost all respects except one. They are both incessantly obsessed with the past. However, onto his obsession, Nick Gats the present. It must be very confusing. Anyways, Gatsby spends his whole existence trying to rekindle a dead romance, while Nick, in telling the story, arguably does the same thing. The way I see it, the only real reason Nick is retelling the events is to relive a time in his life that actually had meaning. A time with Gatsby. I ship it. And now, with that meaning dead, ooh, spoiler alert, Gatsby dies. Nick has no choice but to clutch onto whatever memories he has left and try to rekindle that familiar feeling within him. Yeah. Nick is obsessed with the idea of bringing the past into the future and struggles with the idea of time. He uses extremes like eternal reassurance to describe something as simple as Daisy's smile. Actually, it was Gatsby's smile. Let's rewind. Nick is obsessed with the idea of bringing the past into the future and struggles with the idea of time. He uses extremes like eternal reassurance to describe something as minute as Gatsby's smile. A lot of Nick's judgments, despite the fact that he reserves judgments, deal with extremes. When describing Daisy's voice, he says it was an arrangement of notes that will never be played again. And when Gatsby kissed Daisy, his unutterable visions would forever be wed to her perishable breath. Another thing I'd like to point out is the difference in Daisy and Gatsby's perspective on time. According to Gatsby, you can repeat the past, but Daisy, on the other hand, thinks, or whatever her form of thinking is, in the future. For example, when the lot of them go to the plaza on that fateful hot afternoon, Daisy struggles with her mortality as she questions, what do we do with ourselves this afternoon, and the day after that, and the next 30 years? In the quote above, even her breath is perishable, meaning to go bad quickly. Back to Gatsby. With his sense of longing, he has developed a sort of solidarity in his decisions that Daisy lacks. During the same scene as earlier, Gatsby tries to get her to admit that she never loved Tom Jerkface Buchanan. At this point, Daisy replies with, I loved him once, but I loved you too. Which is perfectly understandable because, people change. The problem is, Daisy was perfectly fine with running away with good old Jay until she was put in a situation of slight discomfort that's kind of maybe sort of had made her deal with her feelings. So what is it? You down to go? Or are you going to force yourself to stay within an abusive relationship with a horrible, horrible man who was cheating on you and would still be cheating on you if you hadn't run over his mistress? Also, spoiler alert. Sorry, unlike Nick, I have judgments. A lot of judgments. Speaking of Nick, I don't think it's fair to point out everyone else's faults and not his. To be frank, Nick is a panty waste. He watches his cousin's husband cheat on her. He is well aware that his family member kills a person and yet sits back and says nothing. Is he that desperate for a life that he doesn't care what gets jeopardized in order to give him a good time? I think I just had the greatest epiphany in the world. Okay, so you have Gatsby, a sucker for the past. You have Nick, a guy who's all about observing the moment regardless of the cost. And Daisy, a woman of the future. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because, you know, past, present, and future are relative, and without the support of the others, one of them would not be the person they are. I mean, think about it. Without Gatsby, Daisy would be nothing more than another bright-eyed, bushy-tailed billionaire bimbo getting played for a beautiful little fool. And then you have Nick, whose whole existence is reliant on the fact that Daisy and Gatsby are just two screwed-up peas in a screwed-up pod. Now that we have Jasmine's theory of relativity, let's move on. Another important theme to discuss is the idea of do-overs. According to Schmoop.com, Schmoop, Gatsby wants a do-over at a failed romance. One thing I commend Daisy on is her ability to understand why that is completely unreasonable. She realized that it is impossible to go back, criticizing Gatsby for wanting too much. His whole facade that everything can go back to the way it once was is completely shattered by the realization that Daisy is a mother. Yeah, that's right. Daisy has a child. Easy to forget when she's parading around the eggs in fancy white cars and, you know, completely ignoring her child. Yeah. Gatsby and I in turn leaned down and took the small, reluctant hand. Afterward, he kept looking at the child in surprise. I didn't think he'd ever believed in its existence in the first place. I'm sorry. It's a child! We won't even talk about the fact that Gatsby is literally stunned by the nameless child's existence, or rather, doesn't want to acknowledge her existence. You know, you think that after stalking Daisy for so long, he would maybe have noticed that she got progressively hefty over a period of 9 months? Then a child was with her at all times? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the child was a secret. You know, an Octavia from the 100 kind of situation. I mean, it's only fair to point out that Daisy is totally unfit to be a mother. Although, I don't really think that's her fault. The woman is obsessed with her mortality, and the only thing that spares it is a man who would like to return her to her glory childless days. So, here you have a mix of conflicting characters who all obsess over a period of time. What happens when you throw in a few ticking time bombs? Come back after the break. Well, time bomb number 1 is Mr. George Wilson, husband of the late Mortal Wilson. Mortal, she's dead. Anyways, fun fact, as of present time, both are dead. Myrtle was run over by Daisy, and George kills himself after a false tip tells him to kill Gatsby and then himself. By the way, he thinks Gatsby murdered his wife. And who do you think that false tip comes from? Remember that raging jerk face from earlier? Welcome back, Mr. Tom Buchanan! Time bomb numero 3. You know, Tom knows it's only a matter of time before his perfect world of lust and wealth comes crashing down around him, so he decides to really live it up. I mean, he parties with Myrtle in their New York apartment and then has lively conversations about the dominant race. Yeah, he's a racist too. Tom is violent, a real hulking brute, according to Daisy. Add an unpredictable racist control freak? No, Donald Trump was not in Gatsby. I'm talking about Tom. And someone just turned up the heat in this bad boy. Add an equally as unpredictable mistress with a mentally disturbed husband with nothing to lose. Bada bing, bada boom, you have yourselves a hot mess. Well, eventually everything does boil over, and the death toll rises one by one by one. So, What have we learned today, kid? Obsessing over the past is just as dangerous as obsessing over the present or future. Nick is so enveloped in making sure he gets his story that he throws aside all morals and passes it off as being judgment-free. A blank canvas-style narrator whose sole purpose is to inform readers of the events of the past. Really, Nick? You're a liar now, too? Daisy, on the same token, is so infatuated with the thought of the future that she basically screws everyone over in the present and neglects to see what is right in front of her. Hint, hint, her husband cheating on her, her daughter probably going to grow up to be just as insane as she is. You know, obsession with time is a curious thing because there is no balance. Trying to control the future is just as fatal as trying to excavate past memories. However, an obsession with the present can lead you to do things you would otherwise avoid, such as lying and deceiving family in order to get your story. Hint, hint, Nick. I don't know, maybe it's Nick's writer side that leads him to a good scoop no matter what the cost. And maybe it's Daisy's immaturity that causes her to avoid coming to terms with her mortality. And, quite possibly, it is Gatsby's obsession that causes his desires to flee from him like a lamb from a tiger's den. Or maybe it's all of these things combined to create a horrifyingly dependent world where nothing and no one will ever meet the standards set by its inhabitants. And the only way out is death itself. Well, that was fun. Until next time, I bid you good night and good day. Oh, wait, before I depart, I would like to say one thing. It is very important that you do not get caught up in the events of a certain time. Life is about balancing nostalgia with excitement and ambition. You cannot have one without the next. It is important to find balance, or you might end up in the Twilight Zone.